Former President Kgalema Motlanthe says local government should be protected from political overreach as the conflation of the party and the states affects the provision of service delivery. He addressed the Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation Inclusive Growth Forum that is underway in Drakensberg in KwaZulu-Natal this weekend. The former president, who's also leading the ANC's Electoral Commission ahead of the party's national conference in December, is hoping to use the event to shift the national conversation away from party politics and focus on political economy. We're now joined by William Gumede, Associate Professor at Wits School of Governance. So thank you so much for your time, Prof, and good evening to you.
Good evening to you, and thank you for having me.
Fantastic, Prof. Let's focus on local government, since it's one of the major, spheres of governance. And how to ensure that municipalities are well run and not allow political interference hinder service delivery?
No, thank you for having me again. I'm also one of the conveners, obviously, of the Inclusive Growth Forum, convened under your auspices, former President Kgalema Motlanthe. I think it is very important that, most of our delivery takes place at a municipal level. And unfortunately, municipalities across the country have largely collapsed. So if we talk about a failed state, we can almost talk about a failed state at the level of municipalities. Now, one of the reasons why we have, failed states at the municipal level is the fact that there is no firewall between the politicians and the administration. So the administration at the municipal level is not professional. So our public services municipal level, unprofessional, a lot of political interference and influence. And it's going to be very important that we make the municipality administrations professional, and we keep the councillors and the elected people out of running the day-to-day affairs of our municipalities.
And at this particular point in time, Prof, let's take a listen to what former President Motlanthe said, actually.
Our strongest tool to discover how to steer the nation on a trajectory of recovery and cohesion and interact harmoniously with the ecosystem is born from the virtues of dialogue. The time for ideas and the time for exchange has never been more pressing for the survival of democracy and humanity than it is now.
And undoubtedly, Prof, coming back to you, we're facing a crisis as a country in so many fronts. How do we come out of this challenging period?
The interesting thing now, obviously, yesterday's discussion here in the Drakensberg at Inclusive Growth Forum really has been talking around a crisis in the country. We are facing our biggest crisis in generations. And unfortunately, at a political leadership level, whether at national level, provincial level, at a local level, there is no sense of competency. We've got very high levels of corruption, because if one has very high levels of corruption in the country, obviously corrupt leaders cannot offer leadership and ideas. So it is very important for us as a country that we, that we, all of us, that we create almost a bigger tent that can co-govern, so that we look far beyond the ANC. Obviously, could include the ANC, but we've now got to the point where we must almost create a government of national unity, or at least bring all political players together, and the players must go beyond just the ANC tripartite alliance and the governing alliance. We have to bring every skill together, every group together to plot a new direction for the country, and fresh ideas for the country going forward, and also deal with corruption.
And of course, Prof, it's been a very busy day for the former presidents of South Africa, also former President Thabo Mbeki, speaking about the upcoming ANC conference, saying that they need to introspect and make sure that the caliber of the leaders they're chosen at that particular conference are able to respond to the internal challenges facing the party. Do you think it's going to be a defining moment for the party and also the country as well?
It is absolutely. This is a defining moment for the ANC. What has happened with the ANC is what happened to many African liberation movement is a decline. So every year is a decline. And now, unfortunately, also, or sadly, to put it that way, almost every election after independence election, so every election after 1994, every party conference get poorer quality of leaders and poorer quality of policies. So it's almost a path that the ANC on. It's a path really of decline. And now the challenge obviously for the ANC is how to reverse the decline. Now, to reverse the decline like that, really needs shock therapy. Now, so far, if we watch sort of the proceedings ahead of the conference, there doesn't appear to be the political will for shock therapy to clean up. What do I mean by shock therapy? It would mean almost firing every national executive member of the ANC, firing almost every member of parliament of the ANC, and perhaps even a provincial level party figures at provincial and municipal level, and then elect totally new people, even get independent people, agency in recruitment agency, call for public nominations and invite people to apply that are non-members of the ANC and members of the ANC, and then reappoint a totally new leadership of the ANC. That's the shock therapy that the ANC now needs. If the ANC will just depend on the current crop of leaders, it will be the total decline of the ANC, that by 2024, the ANC is likely not going to be in power without a coalition, a partner. The consequence, of course, for us of a crisis in the ANC, for us as a society, more state failure, more state collapse, more lack of delivery, more corruption, and so on. So it's a very dire situation. So the ANC is a crisis, cause a crisis also in the country itself.
And in fact, Prof, let's take a listen to what former President Mbeki had to say.
Many people say to me that they view the forthcoming conference of the ANC at the end of the year, the national conference, as possibly a defining event. Possibly a defining event in the future of our country. And of course, they say this aware of the political position of the ANC, who are the governing party nationally, the governing party in 8 of the provinces. I think we are still the majority party in the majority of the municipalities, whatever is happening in the metros. So this is a very powerful political force in our country. And so when it convenes a national conference, as it will at the end of the year in December, naturally, I think it is natural for people, whatever their political persuasions, indeed to come to a conclusion like that this is possibly a defining event.
And that's former President Thabo Mbeki. He was speaking at the Strategic Dialogue Group. And at this point in time, I want to say thank you to you, Professor Gumede, of course, from the Wits School of Governance.
Thank you.
Of course, now let's go to the weather front to see what's happening on that side.